That's right, Dave. I just played the first full minute. I just love the intro to the beginning of the Superman theme song.
And 6 listeners just drove off a cliff in boredom.
I can't help myself. It is one of my all-time favorite movie scores, especially the beginning.
It's my 7 a.m. alarm clock theme.
Is it?
Yeah, it wakes me up in the morning.
That is awesome. So, it's a wrap for me. My top 3 most anticipated films now of this year are all out.
It's all downhill from
here. That's it. And this week, it's number 1. The most eagerly anticipated Superman reboot. I should say not the most, but the eagerly anticipated Superman reboot, Man of Steel, is upon us. So, as I always do with the big event pictures, I got a little self-indulgent this week. So prepare yourself as we get all up in our business with Superman this week. I mean, it's Superman clips, music, throughout the whole thing. So if you're not a Superman fan, you probably just want to stop listening now. Of course, we're still going to review the big releases on Blu-ray and DVD. Then we're going to have 2 top 5s for you this week. First, it's going to be the best superhero films of the past 10 years. And then, of course, we're going to do our favorite Superman movie things, just everything associated with the Superman films. Christopher Reeve to Brandon Routh, now to Cable. I probably should have figured that out before we started.
Nailed it.
Before all that fun stuff, does anyone feel like hitting an IHOP?
No thanks.
Oh, well, let's get down to it. Man of Steel.
Goodbye, my son. Our hopes and dreams travel with you.
He'll be an outcast. I'll kill him.
How? He'll be a god to them. What if a child dreamed of becoming something other than what society had intended? What if a child aspired to something greater?
My son was in the bus. He saw what Clark did.
You're the answer, son. You're the answer to are we alone in the universe?
Can I just keep pretending I'm your son?
You are my son. And I have to believe that you were sent here for a reason. And even if it takes the rest of your life, you owe it to yourself to find out what that reason is.
How do you find someone who has spent a lifetime covering his tracks? For some, he was a guardian angel. For others, a ghost who never quite fit in.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They will race behind you. They will stumble. They will fall. But in time, they will join you in the sun. In time, you will help them accomplish wonders.
Believe your son is safe?
I will find him!
My father believed that if the world found out who I really was, they'd reject me. He was convinced that the world wasn't ready. What do you think?
So it's here, Dave. Man of Steel.
It is!
My most anticipated film of the year. I've been waiting to see this film since finally they announced they were making it. That Christopher Nolan was helming the project.
Yeah.
Then they brought in Zack Snyder, and I got a little apprehensive. I got a little nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think justifiably
Zack Snyder did 300
and then the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah.
And then Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. That's probably his lowest note,
and The Watchmen.
The Watchmen, yeah.
So Zack Snyder now. So basically, the take was we were going to have all the Nolan drama with all the crazy Zack Snyder action. And it's going to be this big, epic superhero film. So, Dave, is it a big, epic superhero film?
Before we jump right into how epic is this movie, let's talk about how epic the length of this movie is.
Yes.
This movie clocks in at a full 2.5 hours long for a superhero movie. But you know what,
Actually,
Chris?
It's a little longer than that.
Is it?
Go ahead. It's 2:23. 2 hours, 23 minutes.
You know what, Chris? I had a blast.
Did you?
All the way through.
Did
I
you?
absolutely adore this movie. non-stop fun I was having watching this movie. Did you see it in 3D?
Yes, I did.
I saw it in 3D. I was having a blast. It looked great in 3D.
I've actually seen
one of the very few times I've said, I'm glad I saw that movie in 3D.
I've seen it twice, and first in IMAX 3D, and then just in IMAX.
Yeah?
And I am shocked. I am floored. I was convinced you were going to come in here and say you hated it and that it was just trash, and
no,
you could barely sit through the whole thing.
Okay, so let me talk a little bit before we get into what you thought about the movie. Let me talk about my biggest fear about the movie, because it was going to be another origin story for another superhero. It's not that I hate them; it's just that I'm sick of them. We've seen so many in the last 15 years. And we've seen 2 for Superman in the last 30 years. Right. We saw the Superman movie, which the original movie with Christopher Reeve, and we just saw a 10 or 15 year series, Smallville.
Okay.
That was basically a 15-year origin story. Right. It was terrible. So I was really excited how they handled the origin story in this. The first 10 minutes of this movie are so exciting that I think they could have made a whole nother movie just out of that.
Just on Krypton?
Imagine, okay, so this isn't a review of the movie, but imagine if they did this. This is like a Prometheus style, this isn't a prequel to Man of Steel. This is just a new movie. And at the end, you find out, oh wait, that's Kal-El.
Jor-El, you mean?
Yeah, whatever his name is. Wouldn't that have been cool? I mean, the beginning of this movie was so good, it could have been a whole nother movie.
That would have been interesting.
It was awesome.
I am floored that you enjoyed this film as much as you did.
Yeah, I really had a great time watching this movie.
I think let's start at the beginning. I think Snyder does a fantastic job with Krypton.
Yes.
I think the development of Krypton as a set piece, as a world, is extremely well realized. I thought that was fantastic. I was blown away by how good that was.
It was great. It looked like a fully fleshed out world. It had its own technology, its own art style, its own animals, its own, politics, everything about it had its own way of birthing babies. I mean, it was just like an entire world.
Okay, I still can't believe that you enjoyed this as much as you did. I liked the movie a lot. When I first walked out of the theater, because I had a couple people actually tweeting and emailing me on Facebook asking me what I thought about it. Because I kind of made a big thing of when I was seeing it.
Yeah.
And my first initial reaction was epic action scenes, and I'm going to say now possibly the best action scenes I've ever seen in a film.
They were really good.
But the film has no heart.
Okay, so I disagree with that.
Now I've come around on that.
Have you? Okay, good.
Because I've seen it a second time, and I've softened my view on it. Now I still think the film has some issues.
Well,
I think
every
it's
film
not
has some
the
issues,
heart
yeah,
though.
sure.
I think it's more the soul of the film. I never really connected with any of the characters. I never felt any just desire to be a part of that world. I just never felt connected to anybody on screen.
I connected to Superman in this movie more than I have in the past with Superman movies. Superman has always been on this pedestal of the indomitable Superman, right? He can't be beat. You can play around with the kryptonite and stuff, and Lex Luthor is always kind of funny. Which it was funny to see a couple LexCorp signs in the movie. I thought that was fun.
And the big satellite was a Wayne Enterprises.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay.
The satellite they crashed into is a Wayne satellite.
But I felt like Superman, the way they did his kind of flashbacks to his origin story, like him growing up, I thought it was touching, especially that scene in the closet. It felt emotional and it felt real to me, and it was fun to watch. It was fun to grow up with Superman in those flashback sequences, and they were so brief that it wasn't overblown.
I agree with you, and I think that was the best way to handle it, because everybody knows Superman's origin. You can never have read a comic or seen a movie, and you know Superman's story. So I think Snyder handled that really well by
and it was different than everything else you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, he introduces it through flashbacks, so you're not sitting through 45 minutes of just him growing up.
There was no scene of him racing next to a train, or picking up the car so his father could change the tire.
Right.
There was no scene like that. It was mostly about his emotional struggle growing up, and I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, and just the scene the scene you're talking about when he locks himself in the closet in the classroom, when he first gets his X-ray vision, and all the other kind of powers start to manifest themselves. I thought that was incredibly well done,
and it came around in the story later on, which I really appreciated.
I would agree with that. I feel almost bad for Cable, because as Superman, as Clark Kent, I feel like he had a few, for me, really shining moments where I bought him as Superman. I totally did. I just feel bad for him because I think he had he got shorted in this film. He had like 10 lines of dialogue in this whole movie.
Yeah, he did it okay. He did an okay
when
job,
he's
though.
on screen and when he delivers the lines, he nails it.
Yeah, he feels like Superman. You feel like you're watching Superman.
So basically, because I want to talk about some stuff, but we should give a little setting on what the film's focused on.
Okay, sorry.
So you have Krypton's blown up and Superman gets sent to Earth, blah, blah. We all know that. So what happens, General Zod tries to attempt a coup, right, and take over Krypton, because even though they know it's all going to blow up, because he has an idea for repopulating the planet someplace else, which Jor-El kind of does too. But so Superman comes to Earth, he gets raised up, and then Zod eventually finds him, and he basically tells the Earth, surrender Kal-El to us, and everything's cool, even though it's not. And Superman then reveals himself to the world, turns himself in, and then of course everything goes haywire, and then there's a bunch of huge fights. So for me, like when I say Cable nailed it, is when he first turns himself into the government and he's floating in his voice has the command that I just envision how Superman would talk, and I felt cheated. Because I felt he didn't get enough dialogue kind of interaction.
Well, there's going to be sequels, so
that's true.
I'm sure we'll see more.
That's true. But so that's that. I think Shannon did a fantastic job as Zod. I love Michael Shannon in this movie.
That guy's great. What's the show he's on HBO?
That I don't know.
I can't believe I'm forgetting it. It's the one about Atlantic City and moonshiners and stuff. He plays a cop in that who's flawed, and he's a great actor.
Boardwalk Empire one?
Boardwalk Empire, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Shannon's fantastic.
Yeah, he's
fantastic.
Absolutely great. And athletic enough to do the action scenes, which I really
And what I love, too, about his characterization of Zod is you could almost make an argument for his point of view, for what he's trying to do.
He didn't seem like
off the deep
he wasn't
end
just a bad guy just to be bad.
Exactly. He's not a carbon copy, kind of just a stereotypical bad guy.
Right.
He actually has motivation that you can buy into. Another issue I may have had with the film is just it's got a couple typical Nolan plot holes. First off, like the devastation of Metropolis.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
With the fights with everybody, with Superman and then Zod and his troops. There has to be probably I'm going to be conservative and say 500,000 people died during that fight. First it starts in Smallville and then it ends up in Metropolis.
Yeah.
I mean, thousands of people must have died in this.
Yeah.
And they never really address it. And then in the film, what's interesting too is how the film ends. Is he kind of starts his new life as Clark Kent. He gets a job at the Daily Planet. But then how the hell does he get that job out of nowhere?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm assuming he went to college and all that kind of stuff. But for me, it's kind of like, boom, all right, now we're just going to set everything up.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, here's the introduction for everything you know, and now we're going to move forward. And why in hell does Perry White have an earring? I don't know why that bothered me as much as it did, but every time he showed up with that earring, I just wanted to slap it off of him. But Lawrence Fishburne had some great scenes with him, and I think what's her name, Janet? But I guess she's supposed to be like a female Jimmy Olsen when she gets trapped underneath the rubble.
Yeah,
that I felt was a really emotional.
That was
scene.
really
good. I bought
good.
into that,
and the special effects were stunning. They were amazing, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the film for me.
The kinetic energy of the battle between Zod and Superman 2 just blows away what you saw from the previous that battle is it Superman 2, right?
Right, yeah. It makes Superman 2 look like a joke. Kind of like when people talk about, and this may be blasphemous for some people, but the lightsaber fights between the original Star Wars trilogy and the ones in the prequels. Because let's be honest, the prequel lightsaber fights are better because they have more trained athletes. There's more
but there's no emotion behind it.
That's
the problem.
That's true. But instead of it just parrying
you
back
just don't
and
care
forth,
who wins.
they're more athletic and more dynamic, and the fights in these films are the same.
It just felt like an epic battle. They nailed it.
So you didn't all feel that they sacrificed story and character for fights? Because I think fight scenes and action scenes.
No, because I really dug how they basically gave us a backstory for Zod, which I didn't know, really. Mm-hmm. They also gave us this great backstory for Krypton. I almost said Klingon. And the story of, what's her name? The girl throughout
Lois Lane?
Lois Lane, I thought was really fun. Mm-hmm. That was a little flaky how she ended up on that C-17 at the end, but...
Yeah, I couldn't quite figure out that's another plot hole I have, too. Yeah. What makes her qualified to be on that
Whatever. It's a superhero movie, right. So let's... I mean, it was just fun to watch, though. That's for such a dark movie, too. It was amazing how much fun it was to watch. I was just fascinated all the way through.
That's where I struggle. I feel that Snyder and Nolan sacrifice action for the soul and story of the film. I feel like... Because what's the complaint about all the other Superman movies, and specifically Superman Returns? There's not enough action. Yeah. There's not enough fighting. There's not enough of that, you know? And so what they do is they double down on it here. There's a 45-minute fight sequence in this film. Mm-hmm. The end of this movie is just one long, basically, battle. And I feel that, for me, that's what kind of saps my enjoyment of the film a little bit, because I feel it needed a little bit more humor and a little bit more fun. I feel like they sacrificed that to try and deliver on the action.
I think they nailed it. I think they nailed the tone. I think they nailed the action. I think they nailed the origin story, which I'm surprised to hear come out of my own mouth.
I know. I'm shocked by
that.
And
I'm really surprised about the beginning of this movie and how fascinating it was. Mm-hmm. I mean, it started off strong and it ended strong, and everything in the middle was gravy.
I think it's I think it's a technical achievement in filmmaking. It's a fantastic genre action film. It wasn't as fun as I'd hoped it would be.
But is that based on your Christopher Reeve movies?
Well, part of me is wondering if it's tempered by my nostalgia for the original series. Yeah. But when I bounced out of there, I didn't have that sense of wonder and like, wow.
Well, you're not 4 years old anymore.
That's what I think, and I got to admit too. There's a few times when I watched the film, I actually did out loud go, whoa.
Yeah.
Just because of the spectacle and the achievement of these these action sequences.
And we already said this, but Zod has motivation. He's not just a bad guy to be a bad guy. He's not just a foil. He's got motivation. I'm looking forward to see what they do with Lex Luthor, because that's obviously coming.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They got to. But I think But how do you top this action wise? I mean, what are you going to do?
Well, then you go back to the more kind of comedy stuff.
So maybe Dave Chappelle can take over for Richard Pryor.
I would like that.
So Superman was an unqualified success, by the way, if you didn't hear. It's the #1 June opening of all time.
You're talking about Man of Steel.
Man of Steel, exactly. I mean, it was a huge, huge hit. And one of the most interesting things about it, which I don't know if you know this, Dave, from what I've heard, the numbers are, they got paid $170 million for product placement in this film.
Oh, it showed,
Hence my IHOP joke.
Yeah, IHOP, Nokia phones, what else was
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven. There's a ton of product placement. But you know what? You saw it, but it's kind of... That's the cost of doing business now.
I think it would be more jarring if it was like a 610 store instead of a 7-Eleven. Or if it was not an IHOP, but it was Jimmy's Pancakes. I almost think that it adds. I think it's by having it be name brands. I think I don't have an issue with it. Yeah. As long as it's not like Man of Steel is sitting there at the end of the movie having some a Grand Slam breakfast or something at Denny's. That's way too much for it.
Smashed at the bar,
or having a having a Sprite. You know, that would bother me. But this one I thought it was handled well. So the $170 million, the film cost $225 to make. So they took care of a chunk of that budget just with product placement.
It didn't bug me.
And with the global takes and everything for this past weekend, the money is now even.
If they had a 7-Eleven on Krypton, then I might have had a problem.
That would be great. So what's your recommendation, Dave?
You got to see this one in the theater. You got to. And I would recommend seeing it in 3D, and I don't think I've ever said... Well, I said that for Harold and Kumar.
That's true. The greatest use of 3D ever, according to you.
But I'd say check this out and see it in 3D.
I would agree with Dave. It's definitely... You have to see it. And I'm actually concerned about that I wonder how it'll play on a TV. Because I think you need to see this thing in the largest screen you possibly can. Just because of the
I think it'll look good on a TV.
You think so?
Yeah. I think it'll look good
I'm wondering about that. We've had a chance to see Man of Steel. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. We're going to take a break, come back, and we're going to tell you what's coming up in Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday.
So, problem. How to make the land more valuable between the time you buy it and the time you sell it. Now, this is California. The richest, most populous state in the Union.
I don't need a geography lesson from you, Luthor.
Oh, yes, of course, you've been there. I do forget you. Get around, don't you? Where was I? California. California, right. The San Andreas Fault. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yes, it's the joining together of two land masses. The fault line is unstable and shifting, which is why you get earthquakes in California from time to time.
Wonderful. couldn't have said it better myself. Everything west of this line is the richest, most expensive real estate in the world. San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Everything on this side of the line is just hundreds and hundreds of miles of worthless desert land, which just so happens to be owned by Lex Luthor Incorporated. Now, call me foolish, call me irresponsible. It occurs to me that a 500 megaton bomb planted at just the proper point would
destroy most of California. Millions of innocent people would be killed. The West Coast, as we know it, would
fall into the sea. Bye-bye, California. Hello, new West Coast, my West Coast. Costa del Lex, Lutherville, Marina del Lex, Otisburg. Otisburg?
Who's this monster? She's got her own place, man.
Otisburg?
It's a little bitty place.
Otisburg?
Okay, I just wipe it off, that's all. It's a little town.
You're a dreamer, Lex Luthor. A sick, twisted dreamer. Your plan couldn't possibly work.
I'll admit there were a few problems. Adjusting the precise trajectory of the missile. Finding the optimum stress point for the fault line itself. Which, by the way, is target 0, right here.
Ooh.
Otisburg. I love that scene. So, Dave, it's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, June 25th.
Any big Superman re-releases?
Nope, that's not actually it. But this is what.
So how's the show going?
Not so good. Good. Pretty good. It's okay. I'm in the lobby doing the 2 to 2:30 shift Wednesdays through, well, just Wednesdays. Plus I'm doing some webisodes, drum up business that way.
What the hell is a webisode?
Are you being serious? What's a webisode? It's a show that you do on the internet. Just like being on TV or having a movie, except you don't go through, all the hassle of people seeing it.
What happened to your hand? Oh, one of my Bengal tigers has been getting a little bitey lately.
That's why I'm a comedy magician, not a big cat magician. I want to kill on stage, not have some tiger rip my hand, I don't want to get killed. I want to kill on. You know what? Just forget it.
It's tough.
It is tough.
It is tough.
It was fun.
I got to say, that clip from The Incredible Burt Wonderstone actually makes me want to watch that movie. I think that's a pretty funny movie. Never mind the tie-in of the fact that we do a podcast, which we don't have to worry about, people listening. So, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone includes a Blu-ray DVD and an ultraviolet digital copy. There's deleted scenes and alternate takes, a behind-the-scene featurette featuring David Copperfield, and a gag reel, and a segment called Best of the Brain Rapist, which I'm assuming has something to do with the film. Next, a film we didn't check out, Dave. I don't know how interested we were in seeing it, but it's the Halle Berry thriller, The Call, where she plays a 9/11 operator.
I couldn't care less about this one.
Includes a Blu-ray, DVD, digital copy, and ultraviolet. And I couldn't find any special features for that whatsoever, but it's getting released on Blu-ray.
There's nothing special about it.
There's a film called No that's coming out. It's based on a true story. When the Chilean military dictator Augusto Pinochet faces international pressure, he calls for a referendum on his presidency in 1988. Opposition leaders persuade a brash young advertising executive, Renee Saavedra, played by Gael Garcia Bernal, who is a fantastic actor, to spearhead their campaign. With scant resources and constant scrutiny by the despot's watchmen, Saavedra and his team devise an audacious plan to win the election and free their country from oppression. I'm a big Bernal fan, so I'll definitely be checking that out. At least I'll be renting it. Criterion is releasing Shoah. Over a decade in the making, Claude Lanzmann's 9-hour-plus opus, this is right up your alley, Dave, is a monumental investigation of the unthinkable, the murder of more than 6 million Jews by the Nazis. I meant the length of it, not the murdering of the Jews part. Using no archival footage, Lanzmann instead focuses on first-person testimonies of survivors and former Nazis as well as other witnesses, employing a circular free associative method in assembling them. The intellectually and emotionally overwhelming show is not a film, Dave, about excavating the past, but an intense portrait of the ways in which the past is always present. And it is inarguably one of the most important cinematic works of all time. Includes a new high-definition digital film restoration with an uncompressed monaural soundtrack on the Blu-ray. There's 3 additional films by Claude Lanzmann included. A Visitor from the Living, Sobibor, October 14th, 1943, 4 p.m., and then the Karski Report, and some other featurettes as well. And just so you know, for the Criterion sale from Barnes & Noble, everything's 50% off.
Barnes & Noble's still in business?
Yes, they are. And they get an extra 10% off if you remember. Their sale allegedly is set to start on July 9th, so start saving your pennies. Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, the one starring Highlander.
Man.
Christopher Lambert is getting released on Blu-ray. I know you've been waiting for that. And then, Dave, your straight-to-DVD pick of the week. I got a good one for you this week.
Yeah?
It's called Zombie Ass Toilet of the Dead.
Yes!
Wrecked.
Tell me more!
Racked with guilt over the suicide of her sister, who was tormented by high school bullies, young karate student Megumi accompanies a group of friends on a trip into the woods. Attacked by a crowd of poop-covered undead who emerge from the outhouse toilet, the group seeks refuge in the home of the strange Dr. Tanaka, who conducts experiments on the zombies, and who has another fate in mind for the 5 strangers.
Uh-oh.
Can Megumi's karate help them escape? Will she have to rely on the liberating power of... I'm assuming farts to save the day. It actually edits out, so it's F***TS. Because I guess you can't do farts unless you can. It's a different word that I couldn't imagine.
We're giving each other puzzled looks right now.
But that's your straight to DVD pick of the week, Zombie Ass.
That
Toilet
sounds
of the
awesome.
Dead.
Can't wait to see it.
Mm-hmm. So what do you got? Streaming pick of the week, Dave?
It's not quite as good as Zombie Ass, but it's pretty good.
Okay.
It's Oliver Stone's Platoon. Came out on Netflix, I believe this week.
Oh, nice.
Have you ever seen Platoon, Chris?
I have.
This is one of the best movies, I think, of all time.
That's where I got into my boy D'Onofrio.
Yeah. It could easily be one of the... It's basically on anybody's top 10 list of movies, I would say. If not their top 10, it's got to be in their top 50.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
It's got to be.
Yes.
Okay. And this one stars Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger, Willem Dafoe, Kevin Dillon, Johnny Depp, Forrest Whitaker, and about 20 other people that you know of and see in movies still today.
Oh, and I quoted the wrong film. I was thinking of something else.
Okay.
D'Onofrio's not in Platoon. I was thinking of the Kubrick film.
Oh. Oh, right. You know the one. So this one obviously was filmed by Oliver Stone. Mm-hmm. It's a searing autobiographical drama chronicling the Vietnam experiences of naive volunteer soldier Chris Taylor, played by, I believe, Charlie Sheen, whose view of the conflict starts to change after witnessing a murder and rape at the hands of his companions.
Damn you, Berenger.
It is a stunning movie.
It is.
It is, and you got to see it. If you haven't seen it, you have to check this out. And to check it out on Netflix is a no-brainer.
There you go. And that's what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday.
Interesting side note, do you ever
June
see,
25th.
Was it Naked Gun, where they come out on the date after seeing Platoon laughing their asses off? Remember that?
I forgot all about that. Yes, I did. That's good. And we're going to come right back with the inventory of, our top 5, I should say now, of the top 5 best superhero films of the past 10 years.
You are weak, son of hell. Unsure of yourself. The fact that you possess a sense of morality and we do not gives us an evolutionary advantage. And if history has proven anything, it is that evolution always wins.
So, Dave, a lot of people complain, not a lot, but there are some people say, why keep making these superhero movies? And I always say it's because they're the perfect vehicle for a movie. You capture lots of different audiences, and the stories themselves are fantastical, and they just beg to be seen on the big screen.
They do.
And
I think now more than any time, with CG graphics perfectly helps superhero movies. Sorry.
That's good. So, so going down this list, I got to tell you, the last 10 years, there are a ton of... This is basically the...
I found it hard to make
golden
this list.
age of superhero films.
I found it hard to make this list.
I did too, and I actually... I'm still struggling, actually. I still don't... my number 5 is still vacant.
I was pissed off when I found out that Unbreakable was made in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
That sucked.
That had to hurt a little bit, didn't it? So,
why don't you go first?
Well, yeah, why don't you start us off? What's
first.
your number 5?
All right, so my number 5 is Kick-Ass.
Okay.
I love this movie. When I saw it, it was so dark, and it had such a surprise ending, and I loved the ultra-violence of the little girl and how shocking it was to see on the screen.
Potty mouth.
Yeah, I love Nicolas Cage as like that Batman kind of guy. Mm-hmm. I thought this movie was really fun. It was like a nice take, a completely different take on like the superhero genre.
Right.
It was really refreshing. It was a little low budget, but I really enjoyed it.
Sure.
So it easily made my top 5.
I think that's a fair pick. It's not in my top 5, and I didn't even throw it in my honorable mentions. I enjoy it. I actually do like the movie a lot. I don't know. For some reason, I have no interest in watching it again, even though the sequel's coming out this year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the sequel.
So, for me, my number 5, I can't decide. I keep going back and forth between... I'm just going to run down my honorable mentions at this point, because my number 5 pick is either going to be Iron Man, Blade 2, X2, or Man of Steel. Now, I think X2 is definitely out of that list. I think that's not going to be my number 5. I adore Blade 2, but sorry, that's not going to cut it either. So now I'm between Iron Man, X2, and Man of Steel.
I didn't put Man of Steel on my list because it was too fresh.
Still new for you?
Yeah.
I think that's a fair point, too. So if I had to choose then one, I'm going to go with my boy, RDJ. I'm going to say Iron Man is the 5th best superhero film of the past 10 years.
It was really good.
I think it's just because really RDJ makes that film.
Absolutely.
He truly does it. I can't think of a single other actor, if I were to slot into that role,
nobody could
that I would get half of the enjoyment out of that film. In fact, if it was somebody else, I bet you this film wouldn't even make my list if he wasn't in it.
There are so many one-liners in that film that couldn't have been pulled off by anybody else. Like do you want to ride in the Ho-Humvee or the Fun V? Like something like that. It's like just... No, but who's going to say that besides Robert Downey Jr.?
And he's really, I think, the only one that could actually deliver the line and make it funny.
And he really feels like he is, what's his name? Like
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark. He feels like he lives that lifestyle. He's not necessarily the super computer genius, but he's definitely the billion-dollar playboy.
I would say so. That guy is one charming SOB. So, Dave, what's your number 4?
My number 4 was Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
I felt like it was a lot better than Spider-Man 1.
It certainly is.
And way better than Spider-Man 3.
Yes, it is.
I like this movie. It was fun to watch. It was a much lighter-hearted movie than what we've seen with the Dark Knight movies and with even Man of Steel. Even the X-Men movies. I feel like it's a much lighter-hearted movie than those.
Yeah.
It was fun. I like Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. I think he nailed being Peter Parker. And it was fun to watch.
I would agree. I think that's a good pick. For me, my number 4 is the big spectacle, fun ride of last summer. One of the most successful films of all time. It's The Avengers.
Really?
Though I enjoy the film, I own it on Blu-ray. I have yet to watch it. I saw it twice in the theater, and I did enjoy it. But there's some reason why I haven't really gone back to it again. But I just remember at the time really, really enjoying it. I know it's a fun ride. It's a roller coaster of a movie, and I kind of wish Man of Steel had some of the humor that Avengers did.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was a different tonal movie, though.
And that's it. And that's, which I think is a fair point. But just the sheer, what Whedon is able to pull off in that film.
It's a
just
miracle.
Blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because like we had said before, and I've mentioned it a few times, that film is so massive and tries to do so much. And it's a cornerstone of that whole Marvel. Well, I guess Iron Man's really the cornerstone of that universe. But it's the culmination of everything they've built up. And the fact that it's as successful as it is, and it's as fun as it is incredible. So that's why it's my number 4.
It didn't make my list, but it is impressive that they could pull that off.
So what's your 4 then?
My number 3 is Iron Man.
Iron Man. Okay.
Yeah, I like that movie. I can go back and watch that movie over and over again just because of how funny Robert Downey Jr. is. He just keeps me laughing the whole movie long. And while the last battle in that movie is really anticlimactic,
it is.
I really enjoy the humanity of Tony Stark and how Robert Downey Jr. really perfectly portrays it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He's really the reason to watch that film, as we've said. My number 3 is a film I have also softened on over the past year. I still think it's a great movie, but it's the flaws in it become more and more apparent to me, and though I still love it. I don't know why, but I'm very forgiving of it, but I still love it, but I know it's not as good as I want it to be, and that's The Dark Knight Rises. I think there are so many key components of that film that are disturbingly successful. For me, specifically being Tom Hardy's Bane, I think is fantastic in that film. I really enjoy it. I'll still pop it on and watch that. I've watched that film probably 5 or 6 times since I bought it. I really still do enjoy it. I think it's too big. There's too much going on in it. It could need to be a little streamlined. When it comes to superhero action epics, it's one of the best, I think, and that's my number 3.
The problem I have with that movie, and it pulls me out so hard, is like there are just so many like ridiculous events that just pull me out of that movie. Like they just pull me. Like instead of being involved in this movie and like really rooting for people, I'm like, what are you talking about? How does she know how to drive that motorcycle that spins with the wheels spin on 2 axes?
Right.
Like, it's just, come on.
Right.
But, I mean, the movie's good. It just...
Like you said earlier today, come on, it's a superhero movie. Just
That's
like
true.
Amy Adams is in the cargo plane.
Yeah. All right, so my number 2, actually, on a related note, is Batman Begins.
Okay.
I was blown away by Batman Begins. It was after all those ridiculous Batman movies.
Mm-hmm.
They just got increasingly bad as time went on. And while there were good superhero movies between, the original Batman and Batman Begins, they were more lighter-hearted, like Spider-Man, like the X-Men movies. Batman Begins came out, and it was dark, it was hardcore, it was gritty, and it just blew me away. I didn't know they could make superhero movies like that, and I was enthralled by it. I absolutely loved it.
I think it's a great starting point, but for me, it is just the starting point for that franchise. It's more about laying the groundwork for what's to come in that series, though it does a great job of it. My number 2, then, is an earlier pick from you. It's Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
It's the best in the series. Still the best.
It is the best in the
even
series.
with the most recent Amazing Spider-Man,
Absolutely.
which is a good film. It's well done. I enjoy it. But it's not as good as Spider-Man 2. Doc Ock, Angel Molina is fantastic in this as well. It's got everything you're looking for. It's got action, suspense, adventure, it's romance. Spider-Man's beaten down. He seems to have perhaps lost his powers a little bit. He's unconfident, not sure of himself. And then he kind of pulls everything back together. Some great action set pieces in this film. And it's just a lot of fun. And that's really what you're looking for superhero movies. And Spider-Man 2 delivers. It really does.
So my number 1 is easy. It was The Dark Knight.
Mine as well.
I found The Dark Knight to be spectacular. It was just so much fun to watch. And I really liked Batman Begins, but this upped the ante to such a degree that I don't know if anything can ever live up to it at this point.
I agree.
When you asked me last week, do you think that Man of Steel will be the best superhero
film of all time?
I immediately came to my head The Dark Knight.
Right.
Like, how could it be better than The Dark Knight? The Dark Knight was amazing. The Joker was amazing. Batman's gadgets were amazing. The action was amazing. The story, losing the girl, was amazing.
That was a bold move.
Harvey Dent was amazing. I mean, just the whole package was just so fascinating, so good, so well done.
I agree. It's my number 1 as well.
Is it?
It is. I still think it is the greatest superhero film ever made. There's so many themes that Nolan is put together in this film. That's one of the reasons why I do like The Dark Knight Rises as well, and the whole trilogy, because he does, I think, do a great job of just drawing all the strings together in the end. Everything kind of comes together. Things that happen in Begins, things that happen in The Dark Knight, all kind of come to a head in Rises. But the groundwork, the big film, the great film in the series is The Dark Knight. You're entirely right. The decisions he makes with killing Maggie Gyllenhaal's character, Rachel. Heath Ledger's performance. I mean, Christ, the guy won an Oscar.
He was amazing.
What makes the thing why that film is so successful is because he made a crime thriller and injected Batman into it. And I think that's why it's as successful as it is. We'd love to hear your picks if you have any. Do you have any honorable mentions, Dave?
Not really. I actually struggled to make my 4 and 5 picks. Spider-Man 2 was like a good movie, but it's not it's hard to put it on a top 5 list for me.
Okay.
And Kick-Ass again is like. The X-Men movies were pretty good. I don't know when those started to come out. When did the first one come out?
I think it was around 2000, 2001.
So that doesn't even get on the list.
But X2, I think, is the best of the series.
But I disagree. I think they got worse as they went. Even with X-Men, what's the new Origins or whatever?
Yeah.
But yeah.
What about Hellboy? Are you a Hellboy fan? I think those are pretty good.
They were good, yeah. They were good.
Blade 2? I love Blade 2.
I don't like the Blade movies that much.
Fair enough. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your top 5 superhero films of the past 10 years? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. And I'm going to take one more break, come back, and it's going to be our second and final top 5 of the week. We're going to go through our top 5
I can't wait to hear your list. I think this is going to be fun. Superman things.
And we'll see what those are when we get back.
It has therefore now become your decision. You alone will condemn us if you wish, and you alone will be held responsible by me.
You will bow down before me, Jor-El. I swear it. No matter that it takes an eternity, you will bow down before me. Both you, and then one day, your heirs.
It's such a classic scene. Just the line. That, and of course, no. Zod. So, Dave, we have in our top 5 Superman movie things. I'll go first this time. I think one of my number 5 all-time favorite Superman thing is also one of my most disappointing Superman things as well. Well, led to the most disappointing. Mm-hmm. The trailer for Superman Returns was so good.
Was it?
They used the beginning music from, I think, the Planet Krypton theme from the original Superman film, and flashes of everything. And that trailer would give me goosebumps when I would watch it.
Really?
To this day, if I watch it, I still get all excited. Then I realize the movie itself is kind of dull.
Yeah.
But the trailer to Superman Returns was so well done that I actually felt it needed to get a shout out. So I made it my number 5 favorite Superman thing.
All right.
It's that good. If you haven't seen it in a while, I'm telling you.
I haven't.
Watch
Maybe I should
it.
Check it out again.
Watch it again, and you'd be like, wow, I can't wait to see that movie.
My number 5 was easy, and it's actually often appears on your Facebook. Mm-hmm. Is Drunk Superman from Superman 3.
Yes.
I watched that scene again today.
That.
I watched that scene again today. I was laughing hysterically. It's on YouTube, and all the comments are just like people like just making fun of the scene. It's so funny.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot about that. Definitely would have been my number. I want to excise my 5 and put that in there. You're right. I use it as a profile photo for a bunch of stuff, like on Twitter and stuff. It is Superman taking shots. Why did I forget that?
Of Johnny Walker Red, of all things. That's Superman's drink of choice, just in case you're wondering.
My number 4 then is John Williams' score for the first film.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big... If you listen to this show at any regularity, thank you. But if you do, you'll know I'm a big fan of film scores. I think Hans Zimmer does a great job with Man of Steel's theme, too.
Yeah. Nothing standout, though.
No, well, I think the final big theme is fantastic.
Is it?
But you don't really get the full version of it until the end of the film. But John Williams' score for Superman is iconic. Just like Superman the character, you don't even have to have seen the film, but you hear the beginning of that song and you know what it's from. Mm-hmm. You know, oh, that's Superman's theme. That's what it is.
Yeah, it stands up there with like Star Wars, and,
totally, easily,
and Indiana Jones and stuff. Like within 2 notes, you know exactly what it is.
Exactly. As soon as you hear that, dun, 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 you know what you're about to hear. So what about you?
My number 4 was the flying, and this goes back to the original Superman movies, and just being like so absorbed by, wow, look at him fly. It looks so realistic, because it did.
When you were 4 or 5.
And now coming back, it looks so good now. I mean, the special effects for the characters flying in this movie are incredible. I think actually Superman's the only one who, maybe Zod flies a little bit toward the end.
He does at the end.
But I like that little sonic boom, and he actually, in this movie, he has like a 10-minute sequence. It's not really 10 minutes. It's probably 2 minutes of him just flying around the world and doing these little sonic booms all over the place. It's just, to me, that's one of my favorite things about Superman is the flying. It's just so much fun to watch.
I think that's a good point. And I think even watching the old films, his takeoffs and landings still work. They still, even though it's all wires, it still works. It looks fantastic.
They were really good in this movie, though.
Yes, they were. Which brings me to my number 3. I'm going to say it. I think my number 3 favorite thing are the fight scenes between Superman and Zod.
Yeah.
The action scenes, particularly the fight scenes in this film between Zod and Superman. Even Superman and I can't remember what's the female bad guy's name.
I don't know. Was it the same female?
Faora.
Was it the same female from Superman 2?
No.
It was
a different name, yeah.
She had a different name?
Yeah.
Because she was, I gotta say, she was just nastier. In Superman 2, she was just nasty.
She was.
Like, she was just like...
She was cold. Ursa, she was cold and icy. I think for this one, she was just evil and mean.
I felt like she was just, like... a military person. Like,
I think that's fair. I think that's a good point. I thought she was really good too. And the fight scenes and it's how you imagine Superman would fight somebody with his own powers. How it was kind of sped up.
Yeah.
And then lots of But I actually made it all the way up to my number 3.
Well, my number 3 is very closely related to Zod himself. Okay. He was awesome in Superman 2. I don't know who played him in
Terrence
Superman 2.
Stamp.
He was so much fun to watch. So he was just
awesome.
dripping with evil. And the scene where they steal like the top of the White House or the Capitol, and then he's like in the White House, like kneel before Zod. Like that stuff is so good.
Stamp totally hams it up. He does.
It was a totally different Zod in this movie, but it was so good still. Like it was this more fleshed out Zod with real motivations and really expertly played by whoever the actor is.
Michael Shannon.
Thank you.
You do your research. I'll give you that.
I mean, Zod is awesome, and he's definitely one of my favorite things.
There you go. For me, my number 2 then is Superman 2, the director's cut.
I haven't seen that.
I have it on DVD. I don't have it on Blu-ray. You haven't seen the Superman 2, huh?
I've seen Superman 2.
But you haven't seen, though, yeah. So we
What's
all
different
know,
about it?
Well, what happened is, we all know that they filmed the first Superman, right? And they started filming Superman 2. They kind of did them back to back.
Oh, they did? Okay.
And they thought there'd be a good way to save money. So Donner is mostly done with Superman 2, and the Selkins, the producers, fire him. They don't like what's going on. I guess he's over budget and over time and stuff. So they bring and it's not funny enough. So they bring in Richard Lester to come in and kind of punch it up and make it more fun and add some more humor and stuff to it. And now some of the stuff in the Lester version, I think, actually does work better than Donner's recut.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me backtrack. One of the coolest things about it is there was like an internet campaign to get Superman 2 Donner's version released, because there was footage in vaults and stuff in places. You could actually kind of put together a work print of it and get it out. So they were able to actually did. Eventually, the internet outcry was large enough that Warner Brothers said,
"Hey, we can make some money on this.
Let's do it." So they put the film together. There's a couple scenes where they didn't have footage. Donner didn't get around to filming it. So they actually they had used it for test footage when they were casting people.
Oh, really?
So you have Christopher Reeves in the scene, and he's like 40, 50 pounds lighter. He's a lot skinnier and stuff. It's weird. But it's their audition scenes, and they just put that in the film as well. It's kind of jarring watching it. You can tell.
Was he in the Superman uniform?
No, he was just in his. He was Clark Kent in the scene. It's a scene in Superman 2. Remember when they go off to Niagara Falls?
Oh yeah.
Well, you know, in the Superman 2, he trips over the barrel, gets his hand in the fire, and that's how she figures out he's Superman.
Yeah.
Well, in the Donner version, she actually believes he's Superman, so she takes out a gun and shoots him.
Oh, really?
Except it's blanks. So when he doesn't react, she goes, "I knew you were Superman." He goes, "Well, what if you were wrong?" She goes, "Blanks." But of course, Superman would know if it was blanks. Anyway,
yeah.
But there's a couple different changes. The fight scenes are better and longer in Donner's version, and the ending is slightly different as well. So, but if you haven't had a chance to see it, it's definitely worth checking out. And I think it's cool the fact that it even exists. You can watch what Donner had originally wanted to do with Superman 2. Except the ending is slightly reminiscent of the ending of the first film, involving turning things back in time and stuff, which I'm not a big fan of.
Okay.
That's my number 2. What do you got?
My number 2 is Clark Kent's magic glasses. I love how time and again it comes down to all this dude has to do is put on glasses. This guy's world famous, right?
He looks like a different guy.
He does not look like a different guy. He's got black rimmed, like, army issue glasses on. He's the same dude. I don't know. To me, it's like one of the more hilarious points of both the movies, the comics, the TV shows. Is all this guy has to do is just put on these glasses. Like,
and he's unrecognizable.
Where the hell Superman go? Where'd he go? He was standing right here.
That is a good point, yeah.
I don't know. To me, that's hilarious, and it just like everybody just kind of goes with it, and it's great.
I am curious though in the next film if Cable's going to play it kind of oafish and buffoony.
He didn't seem to be in the end
Reeve
of this one.
does, because Reeve would kind of skulk over and kind of raise his shoulders and kind of look different.
He didn't seem to be in this one.
So then my number 1, Dave, is the greatest scene in any Superman film ever. It's his introduction, basically, to Metropolis. When the helicopter's falling off the roof, and Lois is falling off the building.
Oh, yeah.
He comes out of nowhere, catches her, and then the helicopter falls. He grabs the helicopter, and she says the immortal line, "Well, who's got you?" And they bring him back up. And that's my number 1 Superman, because that's the moment in any of the Superman films that gets me. I still get goosebumps every time I watch that scene, and it'll always be like my favorite part. What about you?
My number 1, I think, was your number 4. It's the Superman theme. It is iconic. It wakes me up every morning. It just when I hear that theme,
you have it as your alarm.
It's a great way to wake up in the morning. You just get this like feeling of like overwhelming like happiness and joy.
Do you take off your PJs? You spray your
just like rip them off. You just see the pace I have to go through buttons. It's ridiculous. But I don't know. To me, that is the most iconic thing about the original Superman movies.
Yeah.
Are those the original? Were there ever Superman movies before Christopher Reeve?
No. There was like a TV show and there was a couple
cartoon.
serials and stuff if you go way back.
So, yeah. That is, I mean, I hear that. I instantly know what it is. fills me with a sense of joy and hope.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's one of the best theme songs ever. It's the best scores ever.
There you go. That's a good list, Dave. I like that. It's not as good as mine, but it's a good list.
Well, you messed up by putting that number 4.
And that's our favorite top 5 Superman things. We'd love to hear what yours are, of course.
Yeah, what did we miss? I'm sure we missed something.
We must have missed something. So.
Supergirl?
Right, yeah. We could talk about that movie with Helen Slater. That's a great pick. What do you think about the change in the S? That it now means hope. I don't know. What do you think? Shoot us an email at feedback.
What did it used to mean?
It just actually
Superman?
was an S for Superman, yeah.
Okay.
It's so shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. And Dave, we're going to talk about what's coming up next week. And this is a film that got a lot of bad press.
Yeah.
But the early reviews are out of the park.
Is
and
it
now
World War Z?
I'm getting kind of excited to check it out.
Is it World War Z?
Mr. Undersecretary. Your secretary here says you were his best investigator when you were at the UN. I want to send you in with the team. Help Dr. Fossbach find whatever it is he needs.
I wanted for the circumstances to speak for themselves.
Can't help you. Can't leave my family. Take a look around here, Mr. Lane. Each and every one of these people are here because they serve a purpose. There's no room here for non-essential personnel. You want to help your family? Let's figure out how we stop this. It's your choice, Mr. Lane.
So, Dave, I don't know how big a Rotten Tomatoes fan you are, but I think World War Z has a 70-80% approval rate right now on Rotten Tomatoes.
That seems good.
Which is pretty darn good out of 100. Yeah. So this is a film that's been mired with problems, cost overruns, like a dozen different writers. I think the studio almost wanted to take it away from the director at one point.
Really?
But Brad Pitt believed in this film. He's the executive producer. He kept pouring funds into it and stuff, and it looks like maybe he was right.
I hope
we're
so.
going to find out next week.
It looks good. The trailer has me really interested in this.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever read the book World War Z?
No, I never have. I know you own it, and so does my fiance, actually, but
yeah.
I've never gotten around to
the film's
getting
a pretty big departure from the
book.
book.
So it doesn't really matter.
But I'm still kind of excited. I am excited to see this film. I think it's going to be pretty good. You're going to also Monsters U comes out this week. You're going to take the kids to that?
They're not into it.
No?
No.
I'm taking my nephew, my 4-year-old. Well, he's not quite 4 yet, but I'm taking my nephew to his first movie.
Oh, really?
See this, and I'm really excited.
Cool.
Yeah, it should be fun.
My kids are at that awkward age where they're too old for the kids stuff and like too cool for the kids stuff. Really.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm perfectly happy to go see Monsters U, but they're like, no, we're too cool for that.
Fair enough. So that's the big show this week. I want to thank everybody for listening. You can look us up on Facebook and Twitter and the Vines and YouTube and there's a bunch of other stuff we're involved in, right, Dave?
Just do a search for The First Run on Google.
Just Google us up. And then, yeah. So we're going to take another extended break, and we'll see you all in a week. But hang on to the rest of the show. Wait till this very show ends, because once the show ends, you will then hear what I think is the absolute worst thing to ever come out of the Superman movie franchise. That's a special bonus treat for all of you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all in a week.
Can you read my mind? Do you know what it is that you do to me? I don't know who you are. Just a friend from another star. Here I am, like a kid out of school, holding hands with a god. I'm a fool. Well, you look at me, quivering, like a little girl, shivering. You can see right through me. Can you read my mind?